So, guys, welcome. I'm Brian Boyd, and I know both of you, but I'd like you to go ahead and introduce who you are and what your background is, because everybody out there doesn't know you the way I know you. So, we'll start with you first, Arthur. Give us a little bit of background about you and who you are and what you do.
My name is Arthur Hood. I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama. Live in Dallas, Texas the last 15 years. Entrepreneur, real estate developer, basically my whole career, as you're aware of. I've been in the development business, both single family home development, land entitlement, self storage. We're a large self storage developer. I'm the second largest partner in a self storage development company. I also have personal investments and the mining business, some hospitality, and a couple of manufacturing companies and some home service businesses. So a little bit all over the place. I'm also an investor in some telemedicine company in Latin America. So I kind of broad range, but I've always worked for me and been an investor and an entrepreneur since I could walk.
So, that's incredible. So, you're purely an entrepreneur. Like, you've never had a 9 to 5 where you go clock in, clock out.
No.
You've never been a W-2. You've always been an entrepreneur. That's incredible. Jeff, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I'm not quite as diverse as Arthur there with all of his stuff, but largely I've never been a W-2 guy either, somewhat a little bit. But bottom line, do a lot of cost segregation work, and that's really what I've done since 1999. And heard about that. I was working with some franchise restaurant owners back in the day, and this young CPA guy that was moving from Buffalo, New York to the Boston area where I live now, he said, "Hey, you should be talking to these franchisees about cost segregation." And I said, "What is that?" And he goes, "It's faster write-offs for real estate." And I said, "No, that sounds boring." And we were at a family barbecue. He was dating my little sister-in-law that he had gone to college with. And so I had to be polite. And so I said, "Okay, let me ask him," because he said it's really big, that people are going to really enjoy this. And I was not interested in it, but they all were interested. And all of a sudden it became a business. We were doing a few projects a year, and now we do 1,500 to 1,600 studies a year. We've got 38 employees. Back then it was 3 of us that were doing the work. So.
Well, that's incredible, because we all know the value of cost segregation at the table here. But we want to explain that to our audience today. And a little bit about me. I'm a lawyer. I'm a tax lawyer by education and training, and I work every day in a law firm as a tax lawyer. In fact, I think I represent both of you in various endeavors that you have going on, whether it's creating a fund or working through contracts with you, Jeff. A little bit about me. I'm from Tennessee originally. I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're here in Franklin, Tennessee, where I live today. And, I practice law every day. But on the days and hours that I'm not practicing law, I have a pretty large real estate portfolio of my own, about 20 properties, 4 Airbnbs and 16 single families and multifamilies. And my wife and I have been managing that for the last, 8-9 years now. And it's been very fruitful for us. And cost segregation has been a big part of that. So as we go through this today, I think it's really important that we explain in detail, go through the ABCs of this and break it down Barney style of how cost seg works, how it's worked for you, Jeff, how it's worked for me, and just give the audience a little bit of understanding of why it is so important, not only from a tax planning standpoint, the way I look at things, but from a revenue generating and a tax savings as well. So, we all met at SWAM, which is Swim with a Mission. It's a Navy SEAL charity event that, Jeff, you created. And if you want to talk about that for just a little bit here, we'll go from there.
Sure. So I got on the board by the founder, Phil Taub, who's an M&A attorney out of the Boston area. He and I became friends. And so he and his wife, Julie, had started this group. And they asked me to be on the board, and we raise money for veterans and their families. A lot of them focused around Navy SEALs. So we'll bring in 30 to 40 Navy SEALs up to New Hampshire. And we have a great weekend. It's basically 36 hours of events, all centered around helping raise money for veterans and reducing suicide risk for veterans. And Since we started in 2017, we've ended up raising just over $15 million. And this, with the event you two were met at, we raised $3.2 million in basically 36 hours. We've got another event coming up this year, so we have a lot of fun. It's great, swimwithamission.org or swam.org for a short version there. And it's just a great group, and we bring a lot of good people together. It's life-changing, not only for the veterans, but for the attendees. Usually what happens is the attendees coming into it end up saying they want to come back year after year after year, and that's what we've experienced.
Yeah, you're in a community. Franklin, Tennessee is home to a lot of special operators. In fact, the Sean Ryan show is shot here in Franklin, Tennessee. Sean is all over the place. You see him at lunches and breakfasts everywhere. He is really well regarded and has really blended himself into the community fabric as just one of another operator that has found Franklin and calls it home now. So you're in good company here in Franklin, Tennessee. So Arthur, let's start with you. Tell us about how cost segregation has helped you with self-storage, how self-storage makes money, how people can invest in it, and just, for lack of a better term, tell us how it works, because I love self-storage. I think it's a phenomenal market within the real estate investing world that so many people kind of poo-poo away. I'm like, oh, it's self-storage. And I don't think they really know the power of it.
No, I think, people have to remember that self-storage doesn't have residential tenants, doesn't have toilets and the trauma that comes along with residential tenants.
Trauma, I like that.
Yeah, people aren't getting a divorce and moving out on you. People aren't, there's a lot of reasons that self-storage is easy to manage. You don't have the eviction law that you have in most areas. If they don't pay, pretty much send a notice, lock them out. You can then sell the contents of the unit at auction, which will generally cover most of what you're out in rent. Even if it doesn't, you can sweep the thing out and re-rent it. You're not putting in new carpet. When you go to release it, you're not having to do anything more than clean it up and sweep it out. There's no new carpet. There's no paint. There's no leasing commissions to pay to release it, like on a commercial space. In an industrial building, somebody moves out, it could take you 1 to 5 years to get a new industrial tenant that matches an industrial building. A warehouse could take you 6 months to a year. Apartments currently are taking a little while to get released, so you can turn them around quite quickly. And in most areas, especially with new housing, people don't have a lot of closet space. They don't have a lot of storage in new housing, especially in apartments. And everybody has hobbies and outdoor activities and other things that they do, from, bicycling to skiing to hunting to fishing to whatever. Everybody needs to store stuff. People move from a larger place to a smaller place. They keep their sofa and their couch, and storage has just been a very good asset class. And it's outperformed every other asset class in commercial real estate in the last 30 years. Even during the '08 downturn, it was marginally up when everything else wasn't.
That's a good point. I remember, acutely the 2008 downturn. I lost my job as an associate at a law firm because there were no more deals. Like, it all dried up overnight. Lehman Brothers fell, Bear Stearns fell, Salomon Brothers fell. I remember watching the guys from Lehman carrying their life out in boxes, and I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be bad. And it was.
It was very bad.
Rough time.
And I watched it start to come apart in mid 2007. Was doing a lot of coastal development at the time, and I was watching land deals not get converted into construction finance. And then I was watching condominium deals that couldn't get construction financing then collapse even in '07. And I knew we were in trouble when you'd see a property that was assembled, 3 or 4 beach properties that were assembled for $35 million, end up going to auction a year later for $3 million.
Oh,
the equity just wiped out.
Well, can't you look at it and just go, oh, I wish I was in that space to buy that at that time,
Oh, yeah,
That's
the ROI
incredible.
on that now would be off the charts.
Gulf Shores Orange Beach had a huge beach development that was put together. It was like $100 and some odd million of land cost. And that whole thing just fell apart and went away for, next to nothing.
Oh, God.
But it probably was not 10 cents on the dollar. I mean, things collapsed.
Now,
they collapsed because there was nowhere to finance your way out of it.
Right, because banks can't lend.
Right.
Everything just with AI, was it AIG? Was the big 900-pound gorilla in the room that everybody was trying to prop up, and that I remember that meeting they had with all the heads of the banks, and there you have that administration, I believe it was the Bush administration, was telling them, hey, you're going to take this debt, and you have to pay it back in X amount of time. Dude.
But it's like AIG took out a lot of developers because AIG had partnerships with developers. Because there was a company in AIG Baker down in the Gulf Shores in Alabama area that was a partnership with AIG and a local developer. And when AIG went down, they went down. It was a domino effect.
Yeah. And Jeff, what were you doing during that time? I imagine a lot of people weren't cost segging.
Well, you're right. At that time, it was slowed down. Interestingly, I have a client that I became friendly with. We did some partnership deals, investing in real estate, because that's something that when you're in the space I am, you kind of realize what areas are good and what food groups of real estate investment are good and what are hot at the time. So my wife and I have invested in a bunch of properties through the years as well. So I'm kind of not only on the tax dork side, which I'm strong there, but also the real estate investment side too. But one of the crazy stories of that era was there was a big building about probably 15-ish miles northwest of Boston that it's still an amazing building. It's probably 8 stories tall, which is big out that far out of Boston. And it sold for $500,000, and it had to be 1 million square feet. And it was like Class A office, but I think the loans got called, whatever it was, things fell apart, and it sold for $500,000. And everybody was like, I can't believe that. And now it's this gem of a property. Oh, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's right where you want it to be, right on the main interstates and everything. That's incredible. But you hear those deals and you just go, oh my gosh.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, you look back and like, woulda, coulda, shoulda, right?
Right, exactly. But even then, I at that time, I mean, I was a lot younger and didn't have any kind of dough for that. But I wouldn't even have shown up at the auction because I would have been like, oh, this is going to go for $10 million.
Yeah.
$500,000. It was insane.
But we saw all types of things during that time just go for nothing.
Right.
I mean, banks were selling off portfolios of loans for, 8 to 18 cents on the dollar. They were just done.
Yeah. And I know that it took a long time for the banks to get comfortable again with commercial lending and real estate development lending, which we all deal with on a regular basis. How many units or how many projects do you have going on right now, and how many have you put into the ground and are still operating?
We have 10 under development right now. Well, we sold off a small portfolio. We have 4 operating right now, and we have 10 in development. Our goal right now is to we're not going to sell, but maybe 1 or 2 more. Everything else we're developing, which probably 20, 25 projects in the next 2 years, we're going to keep, and then we may roll them into a REIT at some point.
Well, how does cost segregation help you with your project development?
Well, it helps our investor pool because a lot of our investors make good income, have high-paying W-2 jobs, high-paying jobs. They're real estate professionals as well, so they use the cost seg to offset their income. Me personally, because I make money in my other operating businesses, it helps me offset my income.
Yeah. And Jeff, how long have you been working with Arthur? What are some of the projects you've done with him? And can you give us an idea of how the cost seg process works? And I keep referring it to cost seg. It's cost segregation, but in the industry, we call it cost seg.
Yeah.
And, what impact has it made for Arthur? And Arthur, you can clearly speak to that as well.
I mean, all of our projects are running 40 to 48%, and he's about to start the one in Houston as soon as it's finished, and the one in Phoenix. I mean, they have significant cost segregation benefits because a lot of that building, about 50% of it, is not part of the permanent structure.
Okay.
I mean, you've walked through what we're building. You're familiar with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff, explain how it works, man.
So kind of simply, the scenario is basically the tax code says buildings have to be depreciated over 39 years, or for an apartment, 27 and a half. And so how is that building defined? Well, it's going to be the walls, the windows, the doors, the roof, HVAC, plumbing for the bathroom, electrical for lighting. Those are the structural components that make up the 39 or 27 and a half year life. What we do is come in and identify the stuff that's just there for, let's say, the beauty of it being there. In other words, it's not structural. Or in Arthur's case, where you've got doors and demising walls and things like that to rent out that aren't structural, those can go into a faster life as well. And so when you've got that many floors of non-structural items, you get to move that into a faster life. And so typically a normal reallocation might be somewhere between, on the low end, 15, maybe on the higher end, 30% out of that. Per million, it might be 150 grand to 300 grand that somebody could pull in faster for depreciation. But like Arthur says, on that type of self-storage, you're talking about even bigger numbers. And you get into all kinds of other asset classes out there that have specialty features too. So mobile home parks and RV parks and places like that can get really good results. Golf courses can as well. So there's just all kinds of opportunity there for investors to accelerate depreciation.
Now, let's explain to the audience that it's not actually accelerating the depreciation as it is breaking the assets into their own individual lives.
Right.
Correct?
Right. So I had mentioned, what makes the structural components, and then basically anything outside of the physical building to the property line is going to go into a 15-year life. Okay. So if you've got a big parking lot, everybody just thinks of the asphalt, but then there's items underneath the asphalt to support the asphalt, compacted soil and gravel. So that's acceleratable, meaning going into the 15-year life. And so then you get to take that more quickly. And then there's conduit for the electric underground. And then there's retaining walls and ditches for getting the water away. There might be fences. There might be any kind of signage, outdoor lighting, all kinds of stuff goes into that faster life, 15-year land improvements. Then you get inside the building and it's 5 or 7 year, depending on if it's office, which would be more like 7 year, or anything else in the commercial space, restaurant, retail, and residential, 5-year life. So you get all kinds of good stuff that, like you said, is going into a faster life. And because it's in that faster life, it's bonus eligible, meaning depending on what year it went into service, in other words, what year the person bought the property, they're going to get to take bonus on it. Right now, with the Big Beautiful Bill and Big Beautiful Act, it's 100% bonus. So anything we can move into 5-year or 15-year gets to be immediately written off under bonus.
Yeah. So let's give the audience an example. What's the last cost seg you did for Arthur, and just kind of walk through how that process works, what a study actually looks like, because even though we're saying cost seg study, most people don't realize it's actually a report.
It's a book.
Yeah.
It used to be a book. Now it's all PDFs. But,
right. Yeah. Explain how that works.
So what our team does, because the IRS requires cost segs to be done by qualified professionals. So all of this talk about AI and remote cost seg and virtual site visits and all that, the IRS frowns on those, if not fully disallows them, because the IRS can't prove that the study was done at 123 Main Street, or was it done at 456 Main Street, or was it done at an AI studio? So the bottom line is they don't allow them. They disallow them. So you don't want to do a cost seg that's, let's say, AI driven, because it won't stand up upon audit. And you don't want to find out 3 or 4 or 5 years from now that all of a sudden you're being disallowed, and now you've got to go back and your investors have to amend returns. They have to fix things. There's penalties and interest, which have been stacking up for now years. It's a bad outcome. So most people that understand that want to have a quality study done, and that's what we do. So we have an actual qualified professional show up at the property. They do the site visit. What they do is, number one, they identify everything in the building, not just the accelerated stuff, not just that, but everything in the building, the stuff that's also not accelerated. But we identify it and then quantify it. So then we count how many outlets are there and how many light switches and how many of every single thing in the building are there. So we've identified the items, we've then quantified them. Then back at the office, the folks, our team, put in the items into the appropriate lives, and then the valuations begin. So the valuations are what drive the tax benefit. So if this goes into 5-year life, and that goes into 7-year life, and that goes into 15-year life, and that goes into 39 or 27 and a half, you end up with a report that's probably 50 to 75 pages long. And that's what drives the tax benefit, is those faster lives and bonus eligibility. A quick, interesting little tidbit there. Bonus was never around for existing buildings from the start of cost seg, which was 96. Bonus never applied to existing buildings until 2017. So for basically that 10-year span, or excuse me, that would be about 10 years, I think. No, that's 20 years. I was edit there. So basically from 96 to 2017.
21 years.
21 years. It never applied. Bonus never applied. But interestingly enough, bonus came along right after 9/11 because everything had shut down and the government was trying to give incentives to get the construction industry going again because nobody was moving. And it started with bonus at 30%. And for a couple of years, it was at 30, then it went to 50%. And then it kind of stayed around there for a few years, and then it went away. But then we were just talking about the 08, 07, 08, 09 timeframe. They made bonus 100% then for new construction only, though. So bonus kind of comes and goes like the tide, depending on the situation. And since 17, it's been around very robustly at 100% until 22. Then it started to stair step down, and now it's back with Big Beautiful Act at 100% again, permanently, as they say.
Yeah. So Arthur, how has bonus depreciation helped your development projects?
It's helped in two ways. It's helped make it easier to raise LP equity, limited partnership equity that we have to raise for our developments. But then it's also helped our individual investor by being able to depreciate enough that they can get rid of some of their taxable income. It's been a very big benefit to them and me personally, because some of my other businesses, I'm able to take my taxable income down dramatically.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. So a lot of people think, oh, I can just buy this property and I can cost seg it and bonus depreciate it under Section 168K, and that's going to offset my income. But in fact, there's a difference in the way income is treated. You have passive income,
which you have active income.
And then you have active income, right? So under Section 469, real estate is defined as passive income. So you have to convert that to active income. And the only way to do that is through real estate professional status or the short-term rental loophole. Now, it's not really a loophole. It's a Treasury regulation. It's Treasury Reg 1.469-1TE32A. And that requires 100 hours a year managing your own short-term rental. But if you're a W-2, how are you seeing people utilize cost seg studies, investment in self-storage to offset their income if they're a W-2 owner?
A couple of them.
Earner, I'm sorry.
A couple of them have other passive income.
Okay.
But a lot of them have their spouses as real estate professionals that are legitimate working real estate professionals.
Yeah. And Jeff, have you seen that as well?
That's a pro tip that a lot of people don't get out there, is that you might have a doctor, let's say a doctor or a lawyer out there who is not, spending 750 hours a year in real estate management and real estate related aspects. So they just can't do it because they're doing brain surgery or they're doing legal work. But then their spouse manages the portfolio. And that portfolio management takes a lot of time because once you get more than a few properties, it's easy to rack up that 750 hours. And if that's their primary job, then the spouse, if they're married filing jointly, are going to be able to claim real estate professional. And then any losses created in a self-storage investment or other things like that that would otherwise be considered passive now becomes active because they're real estate professionals or their spouses.
Now, when somebody has bonus depreciated an asset in 1 year, like it's 2026 now, if you bonus depreciate an asset this year, it's 100%. So where does that leave the remainder of the structure to be depreciated?
Great question. Thank you for asking that, because that's oftentimes what clients will say to me is they'll say, Jeff, my accountant says if I take all my depreciation early, I'm not going to have anything later. And then what am I going to do? Well,
Loss carry forward.
So there's that. So, but that's kind of a different. Well, where I was going was a little bit different than that.
There's definitely a loss carry forward that you can use.
Yeah, there is, for sure. If you can't use it all in the first year, it will roll until the subsequent years when you chew it up. So I tell people it's like they're starting out the next tax year with I'll call it a gift certificate in their back pocket for the taxes that they would owe otherwise. So that loss carry forward will wipe out their future taxes. That's a good thing. But where I was going with it is oftentimes the accountant will say, oh, Arthur, you don't want to do that. Why would you pay to have a cost seg done? Hyatt's just giving you the same amount of depreciation you'd get otherwise. And then if you take it all up front, you're not going to have anything later, Arthur. And then what are you going to do? Well, the deal was, how much were we talking about accelerating? For the most part, it's somewhere between, let's say, 25 or 30% on a higher end. So if you're accelerating 25 or 30%, what does that leave that's not accelerating?
You still have the 70% remaining. Even on some of our most aggressive storage, you're still going to have 50% remaining.
That's what I'm saying. And so that's where the accountants steer the people the wrong way, because they've scared folks into thinking, oh, I won't have any depreciation later, but they will. They'll still have 70% of it. And they took 20 or 30% early. Yes, that helps them grow their portfolio more quickly. They can reinvest in another property, build generational wealth, become more successful and financially viable. But the accountant has scared them away from it, and so they never look back at it. And that, for that reason, our industry finds that only about 30% of the folks that could take advantage of it do. Meaning, of 100 people, 30 of them will have used cost segs. 70 will not have because of bad advice along the way somewhere.
Well, it's not only bad advice, but you also have to realize that not all, but a lot of CPAs are nothing more than filling out a form. They're not tax planning. They're not tax strategy. And in fact, they're probably almost anti-tax strategy. They just want to fill out a form and pay a tax. They don't want to sit there and spend the time to figure out the best, most effective strategies for their client. They just want to do the easiest.
You know, I have gotten a lot of flack online for saying things about CPAs and accountants not being equipped to give strategy. And it's not that they're not smart enough. It's not that they don't have the information at their hands. It's that's not the way they're trained. They're historians. And if you look at them as historians, they're only looking back to see what the numbers were. They're not prospectively looking forward to say, hey, if we implement these ideas now and we follow up on it throughout the year, we're not having this conversation on December 15th of how to save you money. Because December 15th, there's very little anybody, me or anybody else, can do for you. We certainly can't get a cost seg study done in 15 days. And you can't pull a development out of the ground in 15 days to have them invest in it. So yeah, I agree with that, in that accountants are historians. They just look at your numbers and what you did. They're not looking forward to see where you need to be and where you want to be by implementing those strategies. And that's a great thing. And that's why cost seg is so cost seg studies are so important for real estate investors and entrepreneurs, because those that get involved early, they come meet with people like me, they meet with people like you, they meet with Arthur, and they're like, okay, it's March. I need to do some investing this year. I need a big deduction. I'm going to have a big year. Funny enough, I've got a client that, bless his heart, he's going to make $1 billion this year. And he's in the real estate space, but he aggregates land. And I'm like, okay, well, here's what we need to do. We need to buy some commercial real estate and quite a bit of it. Let's say we buy $100 million worth of commercial real estate. Now we need to cost seg it. And then we need to create that deduction and roll it forward and forward and forward and just keep going. And, sadly, it really is like once you get this going, you got to keep it going. Unless you're going to utilize a 1031, a DST, a 721 UPREIT, or a slow man's 1031, which has to be completed in the same calendar year. And that's really difficult to do sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes, once you start certain tax strategies, you can't stop.
Absolutely.
You're doing it forever.
That's right.
I mean, even the 1031's a forever game.
Oh yeah, it's defer, die, right?
Well,
Yeah.
until they die. And I always tell people, that's the pro tip.
Defer, die, reset in a trust.
Yeah,
at a stepped up basis.
Yeah,
but that's the pro tip.
Yeah, that is the pro tip.
Yeah, I agree. And the sad thing is, like you said, Jeff, so many people are getting bad advice. They're not getting a second opinion. And there are clients out there that have come to me and like, well, I've got all this real estate. I'm like, well, have you cost segged it? Like, I have no idea.
What is that?
I'm like, okay, well, let me see your tax returns and I'll tell you. And you look at these tax returns and they're taking straight line depreciation. And you're like, dude, you've got $15 million worth of real estate here. No wonder you're getting crushed.
Yeah. If I might throw in, just because a lot of our clients are CPA firms.
Yeah.
And so some of them, I'm going to give them a little bit of, I'll say a little bit of grace here, because sometimes it's us real estate entrepreneurs out there. And it's, I'll say, somewhat our fault. I'll say it that way, because maybe us real estate entrepreneurs don't want to deal with the pain of thinking about taxes. I know I bought that place. Oh, I know I got to do something about the taxes on that. And we just put it off. And we don't send any information to our accountant until March 10th. And we say, hey, when are you going to have the return done? And it's, March 10th, and it needs to be done by 3/15 or 4/15. And so the accountant is in their busy season, and they just don't have time to deal with anything other than, okay, 27 and a half or 39 year. Okay, so that can be our fault. So let's, as real estate entrepreneurs, let's take a little bit of that maybe that's the deal, but it can be fixed with a 3115, so nothing is lost.
Well, you just said something a lot of people are going to get lost on. What is a 3115?
Okay. Oh, good point. Sorry, I went tax dork too much there. So if you've bought a property in the last 10 or 15 years, you can still retroactively go back and grab the depreciation you could have taken but haven't yet taken because maybe you sent the information to your accountant too late in the year and he just never dealt with it. But all is not lost. You can step back, grab the deductions that you could have taken with bonus, and claim it in the current year without amending. So that could be a great thing. If you're trying to reduce your 25 income taxes and you haven't filed the returns yet, you can go back and grab prior depreciation that was missed and wipe out or reduce your 25.
And that really helps if you had a really great year this year, you didn't maybe know about it, and you go back and grab some previous. That can be a huge help.
Well, and to another point for, let's say maybe Arthur's got an investor and they want to come in at one level, but they really want to come in at a higher level, but they just don't have the dough handy. Arthur might say to them, hey, Fred, I know you've got those 6 other buildings, did you do cost seg? And Fred's response 70% of the time is going to be, what's that? And then you can free up some money that was going to go down to DC. Now it could be redeployed with you to build bigger generational wealth. One other little topic, and again, I'm going to cut a little slack for the CPAs out there. They may have started, with you, Brian, and they see you as the attorney. And they're your attorney, they're your accountant, and you're the attorney guy. And then you buy a rental property. And then it's 2 or 3 rental properties. And then it's 10 rental properties. And then it's some short-term rentals. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, they think of you just as, oh, he's Brian, the attorney guy, not Brian, the real estate guy. So they never kind of shift in their own mind what you do. And it could be for a real estate broker out there, a real estate agent. They see that real estate agent signs all over town, and they just think of them as a real estate agent, not a real estate investor. So there can be times when the accountant may not have opened the aperture to see other things that are going on in that client's world. Maybe they should have, yes, but there are still, nothing is lost with that.
Well, let me give you a hypothetical, and you tell me how it works. Let's say Arthur buys a development. He pulls it out of the ground. It's running for a few years. He cost-segged it in the first year. He's going to go in and he's going to do some refurbishment. He's going to do some CapEx into it. How does that get treated from a cost-seg study?
Oh, great question. Thank you for asking that. I'm
here for you, man.
I know. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
So the way that would work is, in theory, Arthur would have had the cost seg done initially by qualified professionals, and everything is identified, right? The 5, 7, and 15, and the 27 and a half. So everything. But then, like you say, Arthur's 5 years in, things have stabilized a little bit. He's collected some rent, he's got some dough, and he wants to fix up the place. The idea being for Arthur's...
And let's say I put $1 million in CapEx.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. So what's going to happen now is he's going to maybe put new roof on, new windows, new doors, new HVAC, kind of upgrade the whole place with that $1 million. Now, the beauty of a properly completed cost seg at the acquisition time is that the roof and the windows and the doors and the HVAC are all 27 and a half years and identified as such individually on the report, on the cost seg report. Arthur goes and moves the roof into the dumpster, and the windows in the dumpster, and the doors and the HVAC all go away. Arthur now gets to take an abandonment loss, a partial asset disposition is technically what it's called,
Really?
on the items that went in the dumpster. So the beauty of that is Arthur gets another bite at the tax apple when he puts in new money into the thing, the $1 million.
Yeah, 'cause the roof came off, so I'm going to get the credit for that going in the dumpster.
Right. So you get to take that write-off, anything that you haven't yet depreciated. So if he was 5 years in, and maybe that original roof for that entire plaza or that entire building was, let's say, $100,000 of value when he bought it, well, he's only taken 5 years of it, of that 27 and a half year. So his write-off might be as much as $90,000 because he's only taken 5 years of that $100K.
All right. Well, Arthur, do you do that?
I have done that. We do it on a lot of our rehab properties. That's not really my storage business. That's in some of my other businesses, but yes.
Yeah, and you've seen the benefits of that.
Absolutely.
That's great.
That's free deductions.
It's always good to take a tax benefit so that you can deploy your money to grow for you and your family versus sending it to Washington, D.C. to disappear.
Yeah, and God knows everybody here is not fans of that. We've seen some of the ways Washington will waste money, and it's plentiful. We've seen it.
I think we can get both parties, both sides, and everybody to agree that there's a black hole in D.C.
Yeah, there's got to be somewhere, right? All those tax dollars, flushed down the drain. I know I've paid my at least fair share of tax over the years. So, Jeff, as it relates to cost seg studies, who are these professionals that come out and look at the property and evaluate it? Who are they?
They're people that have experience somehow, some way in the real estate. It could be, at the kind of one end of the spectrum would be, let's say, full-on engineers or architects. And then there are people that are appraisers or estimators, but they've got some experience in that space and they've been doing it long enough that they're not just sent in by some company that's going to take some photos. Because those people are the ones that the IRS doesn't like, is the folks.
And
just
they usually have some
photos.
construction knowledge and construction background,
yeah.
so they understand what they're looking at.
Yeah.
They know the difference between the plumbing, the electrical. They know the difference between PVC and copper. They know the difference between roofing materials and siding materials. And then you go into one of our storages, they know that Janice makes the roll-up doors are X cost, the walls are this, the steel beams, they have a general construction knowledge.
Got it. So, Arthur, if you're creating a new development, let's call it a self-storage, and I believe you've done a few, and I think we did them for you last few months. When do you bring Jeff in to do the cost seg study?
After the building is in use.
Okay, and what does that mean for our listeners?
In use, I would go with CO, but he'll give you the better definition. Jeff can give a better definition of in use.
So in use could be on new construction. It would typically, I would say, the gold standard of technical
Certificate of occupancy.
CO. Yep. The official phrase in the tax parlance would be in service. So it's in service when you got the CO, or maybe it's the temporary CO. There's no per se bright line test, but the CO and the temporary CO can be in that space to call it in service, meaning it's begun to get usage, it's begun to collect rent. Okay. Now, if you've bought an existing building, maybe it's in service the day you close on the building because you've got 10 tenants in there. And so all of a sudden you bought it on December 28th, but there are 10 tenants and you get 2 days of rent. It's in service for you, and you have to account for that dough with the IRS. You can't just go, it was only in service for 2 days, so I get to keep that free money. No, you got to account for it, and that makes it in service.
All right, let's say you buy a property in year 1, you sell it in year 3, you did a cost seg in year 1, but you're not doing a 1031, a 721, or a DST, or a slow man's 1031. What is the tax impact of doing that?
The dreaded recapture.
Right.
So you have to give
with an exception.
Go ahead.
If it's in an opportunity zone, you don't get recapture.
Right. But if you're not developing or buying in an opportunity zone, what happens?
And you'd have to hold it 10 years in the op zone. But
there's that whole OZ. Yeah.
So different set of rules. But one of the nice things about opportunity zone is there's no recapture.
Yeah.
But you got a 10-year hold.
Oh, yeah. You can't sell it for 10 years.
And a bunch of Arthur's properties are in OZs, which make it a phenomenal investment opportunity for some people.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're not in an OZ and you sell in year 3 because you took all your depreciation, that big chunk up in year 1, what happens to you?
So the question I always try to walk people through, because you're going to have to give back some of that tax. Some of that tax savings you got, you're going to have to give back. And it's just the way it is. But why would you be selling in year 3? Probably because you're making some dough. You're not going to be selling at a loss or just a break even. You're a real estate investor. You're looking for returns. So you're probably going to be selling if somebody comes along, if Arthur comes along and says, hey, I want to buy your property, I'm going to give you 1.5 times, 2 times what you paid for it.
Yeah, because I'm not selling any of my cash flowing assets unless you're paying me enough of a premium that I can go find something else and I can replace the income I'm getting. So it's never a bad day to make a profit. And if you can make a profit, yes, you're going to deal with some recapture, but there's a lot of structures to get around. You can go 1031, there's other structures you can do, or you can eat the tax and maybe you have other depreciation on other assets at the same time in your portfolio that'll cover that. I mean, there's a lot of strategy to that.
Yeah, I tend to advise clients not to just cash out that way. Put something in place, whether it's a 1031, a 721, a DST, or a slow man. And I had this conversation the other day with somebody that called, and I was like, well, you need to do a slow man.
Please explain that, because I know.
So a slow man is when you get the treatment of a 1031. But let's just take Arthur's development, for example. Let's say you bought for $1 million in year 1. Year 3 rolls around and you're at 1.75 valuation. You've cash flowed it, you've cost segged it, you've bonus depreciated it, you got your pop, and you've gotten rents along the way. Well, now you sell, but you're selling in January, right? Because somebody wants to have a full year of this, and you're going to have to pay capital gains and depreciation recapture because you haven't held it for the full period of time, and there's profit being made. So what do? Well, you take that full 1.75 and you buy up. So you scale up. So now you've got 1.75 million, and in the real estate commercial world, you got to put about 25% down. So you use that 1.75 million as your 25% down and you buy up. So
8 million or whatever.
Yeah, or whatever the numbers come out to be. Closer to 5, I would think, 5 or 6.
5%. Yeah.
And then you cost seg that, bonus depreciate that, and suddenly you've wiped out the cap gains and the depreciation recapture.
Right.
Because you scaled up.
Correct.
But that requires you to utilize leverage. And in Arthur's world, he does a lot of syndication deals. And I think that is a beautiful way to do that because you're making your investors whole. They're getting their profit along the way because they're getting a pref.
Correct.
And they're also getting a pop on the sale.
Absolutely.
And they're made whole. So they get all their money back and a piece of the profit. And Arthur just goes and does it again. And frankly, we can set up a syndication raise in a couple of months,
right?
Get it up and get it rolling. Arthur tends to do a lot of the legwork on his own. He'll identify the property. He'll put together like the group he's looking at, and we just structure it for him. By utilizing a lot of trust structures and LLCs and marrying them all together through structuring. But that's what I do at the firm. But that's how that works. We've saved him now the depreciation recapture and the capital gains that he would have to pay. And we put him into another deal that, if he's done his due diligence, should work.
Which is fine. And now you're growing your wealth because now you hold a larger asset. Yes, you've got some leverage on it. But if you've done your due diligence and brought the right asset, the tenants or the cash flow out of that asset is going to start paying that down. Now you're paying for a larger property, a larger asset. And that's how you scale to something massive.
Yeah, and so, by using a slow man's 1031, you're not constrained to that 45-day identification and that 180-day close upon the sale of your original asset. So, it's a beautiful and elegant way to achieve the same thing. The only constraint I see on it is it has to be done in the same calendar year. So 1/1 to 12/31, you have to do it then. And you have to have the certificate of occupancy within that period of time. Some people, this is the guy that called the other day. He's like, is there a way around this? I need to develop and build this new property with 1031 money. I'm like, well, you can do it, but you got to be out of the ground with a CO in 180 days.
Or get lucky enough to sell to certain government entities that have the 2-year 1031.
That's right. And tell us about that.
Only ever had it a couple of times, but certain public hospitals, other municipalities, you would know better, but certain government entities have a different 1031. So if they are your buyer, so you sell a property to them, not only do you not have to, you can actually hold the funds, you don't have to use a intermediary, and you have 2 years to redeploy the money instead of the traditional 1031 rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know about that. That's a good one
to
know about.
It's this little quirk in the code. I think we find it in the regs, I believe.
Yeah, I've only had in years of I've only had to use it once. I've only ever had the opportunity to use it once.
Yeah, but it opens up your window, and so imagine that. But we all know, everybody sitting here, that construction development, you can't get anything done in 6 months.
No,
you can't even get permitting in most places.
No, I mean we will contract properties and spend anywhere between 6 months and 18 months to get them to the point in which we can permit them through entitlement. And in certain municipalities, it can be 3 years, but we try to have everything done in 18 months.
So tell our listeners how you structure a lot of your syndication deals. Like, what does that look like? I know this, but the GP-LP structure, how the pref works, how
we
the
generally
payments
do
work.
80-20 or 70-30. So that's either 20 or 30% to the general partner, to us, for managing and running the asset. We have a small asset management fee, and then it's 70 or 80% to the investor. But the investor gets a 8 or a 10% pref. So if they put up $100,000, that money's earning, say, $10,000 a year. So the 2 years to get it out of the ground and the 2 years to get it fully stabilized, their pref is now $140,000. Then they get that paid out first. That $40,000 of pref comes out to them before the waterfall of 80-20 or 70-30 starts.
Right. And who are these investors? Like, where are you finding them?
They're doctors, they're lawyers. There's a lot of real estate guys. There's some retired developers. manufacturers, just friends from all my different businesses that have been investors over the years. They've all made money, and some of them and their kids now are investors.
So are they accredited investors?
All are accredited, yes.
All right. Well, explain that to our listeners. How does that work? What makes you an accredited investor?
You meet the code that you have greater than $1 million net worth outside of your primary residence, or you earn more than $250,000 a year.
Okay.
And then married is
more.
Yeah, more. Yeah.
It's more.
Yeah, it is. So, but you meet the accredited investor standard.
Yeah, and the accredited investor standard for our listeners today is a Security and Exchange Commission requirement under 506?
Under 506, but it depends on which 506 reg. But basically, to do a Reg D offering, you have to be an accredited investor. Net worth has to be in excess of $1 million outside of your primary residence, or there's an or, and it's about the amount of income that you have.
Yeah. So my law partner John, he does the securities, I do the tax. So he knows those code sections. I know the tax code sections. And you put us together and we create these for you. But when you're doing this, how do you go about determining who you're going to invite to even invest in this? And what is the minimum threshold for each investment? Or does that
Our
change?
minimum is 50 or 100,000 for a unit.
Okay.
That's pretty well the minimum. And I would say our average investor is probably 250,000. And then we've got some major investors in there that are well over 10 million each.
Okay. All right. And where are you investing? Where are these properties?
We currently have 4 projects going in Nevada. We have 2 in Arizona. We have 2 in California with 2 more under entitlement. We have 3 in Texas. We're starting due diligence on 1 in Florida, and then we're looking at some stuff on the Upper East Coast.
Okay. What about Indiana? Are you looking in Indiana? And I only mention that because Jeff's from Indiana.
We're always
Hoosiers.
We're always looking. I've done some projects in Indiana, but on my home building land entitlement side, not on the storage side.
Okay. All right.
And primarily my home building business, though, is pretty much from Panama City, Florida, to Baldwin County, which is Mobile Bay, Fairhope, Baldwin County, Alabama.
Okay.
Along the Redneck Riviera, as they like to call it. But I think it's a great area.
I've been to Baldwin County. I have. L.A. is what we like to call
Lower Alabama.
Lower Alabama. Have you been down to Lower Alabama yet?
Back in the day, I had Aunt Harriet live down in Mobile, and so we would go crabbing down at.
I had done a big subdivision. I had put together. It was going to be about 640 lots. We pared it back to about 540 and sold it to D.R. Horton out Underwood Road in Foley, kind of between Foley and Fairhope.
Okay.
So I've
Goodness.
done a lot of land entitlement in the area.
Foley and Fairhope. I haven't heard those names in years.
They're growing.
They are.
They're growing.
Fairhope
I
is
mean, it's one of the
beautiful.
fastest growing counties in the country.
Really?
Airbus has a huge facility going in down there. I mean, it's and the steel plants going in there. There's a lot going in Baldwin County. It's a very fast growing county in Alabama. It seems like the two ends of the state of Alabama, Huntsville area is growing and Baldwin County is growing, and everything in between not as much. But those two areas are really growing.
Yeah.
And you know that because you have a law firm office in Huntsville.
Yeah, we do. We have one of our outposts is down there in Huntsville, and that's an area that is exploding.
Oh, it's exploded. So is Baldwin County. I'm building some homes in another subdivision there in Magnolia Springs, and we were selling as fast as we could build.
Yeah, I went to federal court down in Huntsville a couple weeks ago, and driving in, man, there are things going up everywhere.
Oh, absolutely.
Everywhere, whether it's businesses or apartments or new subdivisions or even buildings.
But down in Baldwin County, it's the same thing. Every time you turn left on a peanut or a cotton field, there's now a subdivision and a Quick Mart and a something going in.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know where the Buc-ee's is on the way on I-65 South down to Huntsville.
Well, yeah, I'm from Birmingham. I've driven between Birmingham and Nashville. Luckily, I have a jet now, so I don't have to waste my time with that.
Well, fair. Not all of us have jets, but
You've been on it to go hunting.
I have. I've been on it to go hunting. But one of the things that I noticed when I was passing Buc-ee's was you pass all these big cotton fields, and they've created an interstate exchange right there where Buc-ee's is, just for Buc-ee's.
Nice.
And there are apartments and subdivisions going up all around Buc-ee's. It's crazy what Buc-ee's has been able to
Bucky-town.
do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I'm from the north, so I can't understand what you guys are saying. Are you saying Baldwin County or Ballin County?
Baldwin.
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 Okay. You guys, I was listening to Tennessee and Alabama here, and I can't even.
We don't have an accent. You're the one with an accent.
You're the funny talker.
Although I will say this, we went to lunch today, and I was going to fall out of my chair. He ordered collard greens,
I
Did you?
and I asked him if he knew what the hell they were.
Do you?
I do, and they were good at that.
My
place.
wife loves collards.
Oh.
She loves them.
I'm like thinking about moving.
You put
to
enough
Tennessee.
pork fat in anything, it's all right.
I'm more of a fried okra fan, but my wife loves collard greens.
Yeah, they were
So
good.
yeah, I'm assuming if we're talking to Arthur, it's barbecue.
Yeah, and the sweet tea was there. What that one glass of sweet tea was sweet, and that's for me that's impressive because I drink.
I've seen it. So on his plane up to Rhode Island that time, he had like a jug of sweet tea. And I was like, oh my God, you're going to go into a sugar coma. Here I am drinking water and Diet
Although
Coke.
that sweet tea was just sweet. The sweet tea at lunch today was,
Extra.
oh yeah.
Where'd you go?
You could taste the granules. We went to the Jim and Nick's by John Toon Airport.
Okay, yeah.
I had another meeting there with incidentally a storage developer here in Nashville that has over 30 units, about 2.2 million square feet, just in the Middle Tennessee area.
Really?
Freeman Group.
All right. Well, great. So how do you go about finding places to either buy or develop? And then when do
We've
you
been in it in a while. We get attorneys. We get all different people send us deals. We generally look at about 100 deals and get serious and interested in about 10 of those. We probably end up doing one or two. I mean, you look at a lot to find one.
Yeah. All
You
right.
look at a lot of pigs before you find one that works. From making sure it's not overbuilt, making sure the growth is right in the area, making sure that the rates for storage in that area are good. I mean, there's a lot into it. Making sure it's in a municipality, you actually get it approved.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, some municipalities will tell you, oh, yeah, it's no problem. Then you start going through it and you find out they're ready. You're never getting there.
Yeah. And when you do decide on one, I guess that's when you call me and then we start creating the structures.
Correct.
And for our listeners, when I'm creating structures, I'm looking at the tax code to determine what is the most tax efficient way to hold the asset and move the money. So typically we like to use trust structures and LLCs that are layered one upon the other. And then you'll just have to see a chart because it looks like this it looks like a class in geometry. Like we're drawing lines and we've got shapes everywhere. And actually those are businesses and trusts that are moving money around. So it's actually quite fascinating. It's a lot of fun to put together, but it's an exercise in, understanding the tax code, how it's going to apply with cost segregation studies, and does it achieve the goals that Arthur and his investors are looking for?
We structure it to be the most beneficial for the investor, because we're an investor in every one of our own deals. Not only the operator, we're also an investor. So it has to be beneficial to the investor, the operator, and we use the tax law as it's written to benefit ourselves.
All right, now let's talk about the tax law as it's written, because everybody here uses the tax law. And we use it in such a way that we are more tax efficient, is what I like to say to people.
People forget one fact. The tax code was generally written by business people for business people. And if you remember that and you study it, there's a lot that's in there that can be done.
Absolutely. And if you look at the tax code, the last several iterations from 2017 all the way up to the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, it is very focused on encouraging investment in real estate.
Absolutely. And in businesses and manufacturing. I'm in some manufacturing that I own. I own a truck body manufacturing plant. We make trucks. There's a lot of tax benefit to manufacturing equipment, just like real estate.
Absolutely. And we use the tax code as it's written. We look at the regulations. We look at RevProcs, revenue procedures, revenue rulings, tax court opinions, federal law opinions from the various circuit courts of appeal, even the Supreme Court. And that's how we decide how we're going to put it all together. And I think everybody would be very comfortable if they reached out to you or even you, Jeff, to know that, hey, we don't color outside the lines.
No, we stay within the
We're
lines.
well within the lines.
But
here.
you don't need to be outside the lines. The codes is written where if you do everything right, you can minimize the tax and be very efficient.
Absolutely. And so a lot of people, when they come to us, they're like, well, how do I not pay any tax? I'm like, well,
that's probably
let's manage some expectations here.
That's probably not going to happen unless they're a full-time real estate developer for the next 75 years.
Right. Like, let's talk about how you can achieve that. And what I typically tell people is, look, just like we started talking about at the beginning of this, once you get a strategy, you got to keep working that strategy. So you just keep rolling that snowball forward to create those loss carry forwards. And that's how you become tax efficient. And that has the ancillary benefit of not paying any taxes. But that doesn't mean you're not paying property taxes.
Oh, you're always paying tax. You're paying property tax. You're paying sales tax. You know, I've got a bunch of businesses that are generating sales tax. I mean, my sales tax is probably $100,000 a month across business. So there is tax being paid.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that Arthur kind of just mentioned with his truck body company, so in my mind, and ultimately it's a fact, the tax code is either a carrot or a stick. And, you know, the carrots are the incentives, the sticks are the penalties. So let's say they really don't want you, the government, let's say, doesn't want you to smoke or use tobacco. So they tax the heck out of it. And they do.
Yeah, they do.
And they really don't want you to drive, or they want you to reduce your driving or get more efficient cars. So they tax gasoline. So that's the stick aspect. Then you've got the incentive, which is maybe some of the green incentives out there, the solar stuff, or the fact that they know real estate is a driver for the economy. So they give you all of these tax benefits like cost seg and all that other stuff. But when you're dealing, one of the aspects of the Big Beautiful Bill Act was that they brought in a new category altogether called QPP. So that's going to be where Arthur's doing some work, you know, to manufacture something, and now he gets to take 100% of that spend on that new building as an immediate write-off because it's bonus eligible as manufacturing facilities.
Absolutely.
There are nuances to that, meaning if Arthur puts a 100,000 square foot building up for production of, let's say, truck bodies, you know, if he's got 20,000 of it that's dedicated to warehouse and employee break rooms and offices, that part won't be 100% bonus eligible. But the 80,000 square feet that was for the production facility would be.
Correct.
It's a smoking deal for people. Keep in mind, that's an incentive to bring back onshore production for companies like, let's say, big car manufacturers that might be making stuff right now in Canada or in Mexico. The incentive is to bring them back to the U.S. or maybe computer chip companies.
But the government has always been big about incentivizing what they want to see come back. I mean, that's just bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's one person who's not here today that we were hoping to get down here. His name's Brandon Brittingham, and he's a client of mine. He's friends of yours. I think you both have done work with him. Tell us a little bit about how you met Brandon. What does he do? Because we do want to give Brandon a little bit of love because he really wanted to be here. He just couldn't make it happen today.
Right.
I met Brandon the same way I met Jeff through Kent Clothier's Boardroom Masterminds, a real estate group, about 250 developers, investors in real estate. And Brandon's really kind of grown a business of helping people make passive income and mitigate taxes through real estate investment. He's done very, very well at that. Jeff helps a lot on their cost seg, and that's kind of how we all met through that group. And then, you know, Jeff's flown with me out to see a couple of my projects, and he became an investor with me, and kind of the whole group ends up doing things together.
Yeah, and, you know, for our listeners out there, if you don't already see this, the synergies among these relationships just keep growing and growing and growing. And I was telling somebody the other day that, you know, like-minded people hang out with like-minded people.
Absolutely.
And wealth begets wealth. And if you're not wealthy and you want to be wealthy, hang out with people that are doing things that you're not doing, and that will open up opportunities for you. Show your value to them.
Absolutely. Some of the greatest advice. If you want to get rich, hang out with rich people.
Yeah.
If you want to get things done, hang out with people that are doing things.
Yeah.
Like right now, I'm about to pick up my phone, actually text my pilot back to make sure he's ready to go when we're done.
So get yourself in proximity to be with the right kind of people that can help you grow. And what I always tell people, I love to help younger people get successful in the real estate world. And I'll dedicate a lot of time to helping people understand moves they can make to make themselves more successful. I know you do that. I know Arthur does that as well. So one of the things we've been talking about here, and let me give a shout out to Brandon a little bit further. He's got quite a podcast world following that he's got. It's called Wake Up to Wealth. And he is usually in the investment side of the world, number 1 or 2 in the podcast every given month. He just rocks it. And he really breaks down information that young investors or newer investors should hear and talk about and understand more of. And he's got a great one. Again, Wake Up to Wealth, Brandon Brittingham. He's the mailbox money guy is what he calls himself. Now, hold on, Brian, you've done a great job interviewing us, but you've done a little bit of talking about your own situation, but I want to compliment you because I gave you, like you said, I was giving you a contract opportunity to review for me probably a little over a year ago. And I was like, it looks good to me. I don't see anything wrong with it. And within 10 minutes, you got back to me. Maybe it was an hour. You got back to me very short order and said, wait a minute, in this particular state that this contract is being set up for, the pref rate that is being offered to you is too high. And by that state's law, it would be called usury and would be unenforceable by you if it ever needed to try to go to court to enforce it. And so you immediately got me that information. I called that person that I was about to invest with, pointed this out, which they didn't realize that. They just thought, oh, you could say whatever your pref is, you want it to be. But once he realized it, he then adjusted and set up some other structures so that you helped me save a potentially negative outcome. So your legal work is above anyone else that I've seen, and you just do a great job, and I want to compliment you on that.
And I'd agree with the same thing. I'm sorry about that, but I had to let our pilot know I'm flying.
Flying Jeff.
I'm flying Jeff.
He's my pilot. He's your pilot today.
In order for him,
hey, don't hold me up, Arthur.
In order for him to make it work today for us to do this, he had something in Indiana, and I'm heading to Chicago for one of my other businesses, so I'm dropping him off on the north side of Indianapolis near Fishers on the way to Chicago.
There you go. Yeah. But,
and I'll stick him with the fuel bill. But no, you bought lunch to get
I bought lunch.
Yeah. That's awesome. One of the things that, I'm fortunate to have at my disposal is I work with some really good partners. Our managing partner, Walt Burton, at our firm is hands down probably the best real estate attorney, if not in the country, definitely in the eastern portion of the United States. He's handling major deals, and I often get asked to look at the deal and how to make it more tax efficient. And then my other law partner that I work with a lot is, and him, John.
Oh yeah,
John Field.
Every time I'm cussing him, every time I'm leaving my house at 4:00 in the morning, driving over to the airplane, get in the airplane at 4:30.
Picking John up at 6:30.
It takes an hour and a half to fly to John Tune Airport. So if I'm at the plane at 4:30, I'm landing in John Tune about 6:10 in the morning. Get in the car and head down to Franklin and roll up at about 6:40 in the morning at your office in Franklin, because John likes to get started before 7 a.m.
He does. He's great to work with. I probably work with him the most. But John has a phenomenal background in real estate.
He does, and he's really an expert. And a shout out to him. He's really good with trust structures, asset protection.
Yeah, and that's kind of our the world we operate in. And thank you both for the compliments. But what I would say is that the reason we are able to achieve what we achieve is, one, we work hard, we play hard, but we also think outside the box. We think like entrepreneurs. We're not box checkers.
Well, especially with you, Brian, you are an entrepreneur. You do invest on your own. You're not just an attorney. You have your own real estate portfolio. I have my own personal real estate portfolio. I have a a large number of single-family homes, close to 200. I've got my own storage deals outside of the storage company.
Yeah.
So it helps when you're in the business, but you're also on both sides. Like for you, you understand real estate investing because you are a real estate investor. You own real estate. Where a lot of real estate attorneys own the house they live in and a vacation home, that's it, and they're not really in tune with the business.
Absolutely. So, we like to say we walk the talk.
Mm-hmm.
We know what you're talking about because we've probably experienced it personally. We know how to navigate these issues.
And I'm 44 years old. And I've been in the real estate business and an entrepreneur my entire life. I've made every mistake you can possibly make, and probably a few that I created mistakes.
Yeah.
But you learn that over the years, and I'll put myself up against anybody now.
Yeah. So Arthur, if somebody's looking to reach out to you to invest in one of your deals, where can they find you? What are your social media handles? How do they get in touch with you?
ArthurHood.com ArthurHood.com on Instagram, and then info@ArthurHood.com comes straight to me.
Okay.
We can always go through that. Info@ArthurHood.com is probably the best way. That'll filter to me or my assistant, and then I can get back with them.
Yeah. And Jeff, if they want to reach out to you for cost segs, because I'm hoping everybody is leaving this podcast today understanding that cost segregation studies are a crucial part of real estate investing.
I fully agree with you, but I have a horse in that race, so what can I say? But yes, so my email is jdh, as in Jeffrey David Hiatt, so jdh@costsegstudies.com. Also, Depreciation Doctor on Instagram. I think on TikTok, it's Depreciation Doct, DOCT. I think they cut off the last parts of the letters
The
or something.
OR.
Yeah, I think that's what they did. And probably, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn as well. All over
and I'm
the
on
place.
LinkedIn as well. Just Arthur Hood. So,
how about you, Brian?
Yeah. So for me, if people want to get in touch with me and schedule time to talk with me, you can find a Calendly link in my bio on Instagram, which is Brian T. Boyd, or on TikTok, which is Brian T. Boyd. I'm on Facebook as well as Brian T. Boyd. I had to check with my social media manager real quick. And then my YouTube page is Your Tax Lawyer. And, I put out long form and short form content. And in that bio as well, you can click the Calendly to schedule time with me. And that's how I met both of you. Is you scheduled time with me, and we got rolling. And look at what it's doing now.
Yeah, I mean, and when we first met at a dinner, we got sat next to each other because of Jeff.
Yeah. After being shot at all day by Navy SEALs,
we had some welts.
Yeah, that was. I'm a former Marine, but getting shot at by a Navy SEAL is a new experience for me. Typically they're. We like to say the Marine Corps is the men's department of Department of Navy. And I had a bunch of squids shooting me with paintballs. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
All right.
Then he spent traumatized. I'm traumatized.
Well, he spent the dinner crying. He was like, he would move and that hurt. And so,
well, thank you much for being here today, guys. And I'll get you back to your jet, Arthur. So,
hey, I got more stops today.
That's fair.
The advantage of a jet is multiple stops.